You mean to tell me the Steelers are actually capable of winning games like this, where it's pretty much over by the early fourth quarter? It's curtains. No drama. Everything goes in our favor. The Steelers can actually win like this? Our Pittsburgh Steelers? It's just been so long. I forgot that this was even possible. Good game, man. Good game. Steelers win 32-13. As I said, it was pretty much over early fourth quarter. Once we got that turnover, that pick, Dante Jackson. No, actually, I think it was over. It was kind of over when we got that fumble. I was going to say when Dante Jackson got that pick, and then we punched it in with Fields on that QB run. It was even over before that. As soon as TJ got that second fumble and the Raiders drove it all the way down to the goal line, I was like, yeah, it's over. Game's up. That was the Raiders' chance to get back in this, but we just closed the door. The key word I'd say for today's game, timely. I think that it would be the best way to describe how the Steelers played and how the Steelers got out of there with a dub. Very timely. As I just mentioned, the TJ Watt fumble, forced fumble down by the goal line when it looked like the Raiders were gaining some momentum and had a chance to come back in the game. There was that. The Dante Jackson pick. As soon as we got the pick, Fields converts it in for 6. All those back-breaking penalties the Raiders got, the roughing the passers, and some of those were ticky-tacky. I ain't even going to lie, man. We got blessed with those. We were able to convert. We ended up scoring touchdowns on both of those, I'm pretty sure. We got points on both of those. I can't remember if one of them was a field goal, but at least one of them was a touchdown. And that was when Fields threw a pick across the middle of the field. Yeah, we scored a touchdown there. And then, actually, both of them were touchdowns. Both of them were touchdowns. Both roughing the passers were touchdowns. And both times the Raiders were supposed to get the ball because Fields threw the pick over the middle, roughing the passer. We keep it, scored a touchdown. We went for it on fourth down by the goal line. And then the other one was when Najee Harris did his best Derrick Henry impersonation. I didn't think he had it in him. Took it to the house, down the sideline. Good for him. But that was another roughing the passer. Kept the drive going. It was supposed to be turnover on downs. I'll take it, man. We got blessed though. But it was a very, very timely played game by the Steelers. We took advantage of the opportunities that were given to us. So credit is due there. But I also think, in a way, we didn't play our best, particularly on offense. Defense played good. Outside of that first drive and then the one in the second half where the Raiders marched it all the way down the field and that was their chance to come back. Outside of those two drives, defense was lights out. Turnovers. Dante Jackson got another pick. That's 3 on the season for him. It should be. He dropped another pick today, and we know he dropped the one in the Falcons game. He might have even dropped another one that I'm forgetting. He could have like 5 or 6 picks, but he has 3. Credit to him. He's continuing to prove to be an excellent signing for us. And then Cam Hayward, he's looking like vintage Cam Hayward, TJ Watt, the 2 forced fumbles. He's all over the place. Just seeing how him and Max Crosby operate is very impressive. I mean, those are the best of the best, but we get to see them both in a gameplay today. So it was a nice little back and forth to just see 2 guys at the top of their game at the edge rush position. And just and kind of like their different styles too. TJ a little bit more finesse than Max Crosby, but you got to give props to Max because we were struggling with him all game. He was causing chaos, but also we had TJ Watt doing the same thing for us. And what was weird about this game, as I kind of mentioned at the beginning, this wasn't your typical Steelers game. It was because we played good defense. Offense didn't turn the ball over. But for us to win 32-13, game over, game under wraps, early fourth quarter, late third quarter, it was just weird, man. It just felt like something was missing. It was almost like I found myself being addicted to Steeler game drama, where it's always a close game. It's always up for grabs until the very end. I found myself towards the end of the game as the clock kept ticking Is this it? Like, wait, are we sure? There's no crazy comeback by the Raiders, and we're hanging on the edge of their seat. They somehow have the ball with a minute left, and we got to stop them to win the game, even though we were up double digits just a quarter ago. There was none of that. It's a good thing. I gotta tell myself it's a good thing. It doesn't have to be toxic. It doesn't have to be a drama-filled game. It doesn't have to be. I'm just so used to it, I think, at this point, because I don't think we've played a game in the last like 2 or 3 years where it's either a Tomlin loss or it comes down to the wire and we're hanging on by a thread and our blood's pumping. It doesn't have to be like that. I just realized today it doesn't have to be like that. We could win a game 32-13, I guess. No, you know what? I guess we had the Mason Rudolph game last year, Bengals game on Christmas. That one was over by halftime, actually. So that one wasn't too drama filled. But at the same time, it was just because there was so much going on with the quarterback situation and, the season felt like it was over at that time. So there still was a ton of drama with that game and just, excitement and just craziness. Whereas this one felt just kind of steady, almost in a way for the majority of it, boring. We had the exciting plays on defense. We had the turnover and stuff, the punt block. Credit to Jeremiah Moon. Had a pretty nice debut. I thought he was getting some pressure too over on that left side, playing defense, stepping in for Nick Herbig and Alex Highsmith. I thought he had a pretty good game, actually. I'm surprised by that because I was calling for Jacoby Windman. But the offense was just lackluster. And then with the Raiders giving us all those opportunities, the refs giving us some of those calls with the roughing the passers, like, okay, if you're going to keep giving us these opportunities, we're going to have to take advantage of it at some point. But we had our own hiccups. We had our own mistakes. I don't think Justin Fields was perfect. We had some pretty bad penalties on offense early on. It was like 2 steps forward and 1 step back. Actually, more like 1 step forward, 2 steps back at times because there were some bad holding penalties where we'd find ourselves 2nd and 20 and then just fighting to keep the series going. But I guess it is nice, though. It's nice that it didn't have to come down to a Raiders comeback and we're sitting on the edge of our seats praying that we can get out of there with a win, even though we should have had it locked up way before that. I guess it's not bad. It's not a bad feeling. It's just different. I'm not used to it, man. I'm really not used to it. But it's not how it started though, because how the defense played in the first quarter, the Raiders' first series, I was just like, here we go again, man. Maybe this defense ain't good at all. Maybe this defense isn't going to be one of the best. It's going to be one of the worst. Because Aiden O'Connell was doing stuff like Anthony Richardson, Joe Flacco, and Dak Prescott the last 2 weeks. I thought we were going to be able to handle Dak Prescott pretty well. I thought we were going to be able to handle the course quarterbacks pretty well. And we didn't. They looked like Tom Brady out there picking us apart. And that's what Aiden O'Connell looked like first series. And you had their running back gashing us. It wasn't even Zamir. Who was it? It was Madison. Looked like he was going to have a career day. But after that first series, credit to the defense, we settled in. The TJ Watt forced fumbles. We got the punt block, the picks. It was good, man. Raiders really weren't able to move the ball on us that much either. Outside of the garbage time in that fourth quarter, defense kept it under wraps. Defense balled out this game. I don't really have any complaints for them outside of that first series. I really don't. Offense, though, it's weird because we have 32 points. But am I wrong in saying I still feel like the offense is leaving a lot more to be desired? And I can't really blame it on Fields. It's like the penalties pop up just as we start to get in the groove. Terrible holding penalties. Pickens. What's going on with Pickens, man? When did Pickens start doing a Lima Sweet impersonation out there? What is going on? And I just realized, too, by saying a Lyman Sweet impersonation, they do both wear 14, or at least, Sweet used to wear 14. Of course, Pickens wears 14. Like, what is going on with that? Pickens, the guy that I thought was one of the most short-handed receivers in the league, I think he had like 3 drops today. I know he ended up with like a halfway decent stat line because of that last pass at the end of the game that Fields threw to him. Yeah, 3 receptions, 53 yards. So It didn't look too bad, and you didn't get any of his antics throughout the course of the game, so that helps. He was quiet, but he dropped a touchdown. He dropped one early in the game. I don't think it would have been a first down. He would have been short of the first down, but still hit you right in the hands. And then I feel like there was another one he missed. Am I wrong on that? He definitely dropped a touchdown. I think he had a third one. There was one. It might have been a contest. It was more of a contested catch in double coverage, but I still think it hit him in the hands. Like, what is going on? I don't know what's been going on with him, because this is starting to become more of a trend this season, and it's very odd because he's never had any drop issues. It's not like Deontay. When Deontay came onto the scene, he had ball security issues his rookie year. And I think in his second year, that's when it hit its peak. So we always knew that was a part of Deontay's game. Pickens, his first 2 years, like, you just throw it in his vicinity, he's going to catch it. Outside of, I think there was maybe 1 or 2 mental hiccups he's had over the first 2 seasons of his career where he's dropped one. But drops have just not been a part of his game. So that's been disappointing. And some crappy play calls too. Like, what are we doing with the reverse stuff? There's sometimes I hate it when we do it. I mean, I hate it when I see it across the league too. Offensive coordinators just trying to get too cute, trying to overthink things and do these trick plays and just trying to go way too much lateral and gimmicky stuff. And Arthur Smith did that today. Although I think he actually did call a decent game for the most part. I think he did all right. But whenever those play calls pop up and it's like, wow, why are we even considering calling this? It doesn't help the offensive flow. But I think Fields, not his best game. It wasn't like the first 4 weeks, but then you look at the final stat line, it still had 2 touchdowns. I know they were on the ground, 59 yards, but that all counts. That's part of Fields' game. So let's not knock it. Let's not discredit it. If anything, this is almost his stat line is almost like year 2, year 3 Lamar Jackson type of stat line. 14 for 24, 145, 0 touchdowns, 0 picks, and then 11 carries, 59 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's kind of like a Lamar Jackson stat line, a year 2, year 3 Lamar Jackson stat line. So there's nothing wrong with it. I just think he was passing the ball so much better the first 3 or 4 weeks. He was inaccurate at times today, and then should have had the pick. We got blessed with that roughing the passer call. And then he actually almost threw a pick too on the 2-point conversion. It was that same series that we ended up punching it in, but then he almost did the same mistake again, threw a pick across the middle of the field. I think that was the only time he really put the ball in harm's way, but he was also inaccurate. There was times he was getting on the run. It felt like he had time to make sure the pass was going to be on point, and he rushed it, or I don't know, just tried to I don't know what the right phrasing is. Like, instead of just letting it loose, he was trying to wow, I can't think of the phrasing. He was just trying to delicately get it in. I don't know. It was just off, man. It wasn't like he was passing the first 3-4 weeks of the season. It was more like the Dallas Cowboys game where I thought he took a little bit of a step back as opposed to what we've been seeing from him the majority of the season. But what do we do now at quarterback? I say let it ride with Fields, dude. I do. Because I think his mobility helps a ton. I still don't know if we can say for certain that Russell Wilson gives this team a better chance to win than Justin Fields. Because I don't know if Russell Wilson even gets some of the opportunities to pass the ball that Fields has been able to create because of how good Fields' legs are and how his mobility was. Like, he was really good at moving in the pocket today and getting outside the pocket and picking his spots and when to run. Like, you got to give him credit for that. Even if some of them ended up being incomplete passes, Russ might just be taking a sack. He can't even be getting the ball off. Now, you can make the argument that because Russ is the veteran, Russ has the experience, and the pedigree and all that, yada, 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 that he'll be able to get the ball out quicker than Justin Fields. But that hasn't necessarily been Russell Wilson's game. We gotta admit that. In Denver last year, I think he was considered the quarterback that got the ball out in the least timely fashion. That's why Sean Payton wanted to move on from him. Maybe it wasn't a good fit, him and Sean Payton to begin with. I think that's true. The offensive style wasn't a fit for Russell Wilson, but dude, I don't know how much time Russ is going to have because there's times where Fields is dropping back and it's like 2 seconds. He's got to step up in the pocket, try to roll out to the left or the right because Broderick Jones is getting cooked by Max Crosby. We're trying to have Pat Fryermuth block of Max Crosby. So I think Fields, for what the surroundings are, and that we still don't have a wide receiver too, and Pickens is dropping passes, and Arthur Smith is trying to throw some gimmick plays out there. Given all that, I think just another good game. I think another step in the right direction. Yeah, we could talk about some of the inaccurate passes, the almost turnover, the would-be interception, some of the erratic stuff that you get from Fields, because that popped up again today, where he's going out to the left and he's like throwing it behind his head out of bounds. Ended up being a positive play, but it's not a good look. It doesn't look good. Hey, at least we got the snaps right though. We haven't had any issues with the snaps. Nothing today. I think Fields has been doing good given the surroundings. I would give him another week. I just think you keep rolling with him on a week in, week out basis until maybe the bye, and that's when you make your final decision. Now, I don't think Tomlin is going to operate that way. I think Tomlin's going to make a decision this week at this Tuesday press conference, and I ultimately think he's going to go with Russ. I do. I think he values the veteran leadership that Russ brings to the table, the championship pedigree, all that stuff. And with Fields having a game like this, I don't think he ran away with it and is above reproach, is above the conversation of potentially putting a Russ in. I'd say stick with Fields, though. I do. I think there's a lot of positives that Fields is bringing to this offense that I don't necessarily think it's a guarantee that Russell Wilson steps in and is able to replicate what Fields is doing. I don't think it's a guarantee. Could he? Yeah. Could he even be better? Yeah. But we are 4-2 with Fields. Could easily be 5-1, maybe even be 6-0. It's not Fields' fault that we're not 5-1 and 6-0. I'll put it to you that way too. That comeback in the Colts game, like Fields was the reason we even had a chance in that one. And it's not like he was hurting us on offense in the first half either. That was Pickens fumbling the ball out of bounds, Tomlin not giving Boswell the chance to kick the field goal instead of punting it. It would have been like a 50-plus yard field goal early in the game, and Broderick Jones getting that penalty to enable Tomlin to make that decision. Because if Broderick doesn't have that penalty, it's like a 40-something yarder for Boz, and Tomlin's just putting him out there no matter what. And my money's on Boz making that. And then Dallas game, not the best of game for Fields, but ultimately he got us up 17-13 with like 6 minutes left, and the defense needed to get a stop, and we couldn't. And then we win this game. I think it was a good game. I don't think it was anything crazy. So we could talk about some of the hiccups. We could talk about some of the bad things Fields is doing, but I think he's doing a lot more positive and good things. So if you're demanding perfection from your quarterback, you're just not going to get it. Like Caleb Williams had an awesome game today. 4 touchdowns. He still had a pick. Look at any quarterback across today. You could look at a bunch of dudes that had good games. There might be a pick or two in there. Might be some bad passes. It's just that Fields, for those first 3 or 4 games, wasn't even putting the ball close into harm's way or close to having it be an interception. He had some of the snap issues, but yeah, any of his misses, it was like, dude, that's actually a good incomplete pass. You're not throwing any turnover worthy balls here. But that has popped up over the last 2 games, and it's just something to note. It's like, all right, yeah, I guess Fields isn't going to be perfect, but again, what quarterback is? Let me read some of the chat here. I'm gonna have to shout out Najee at some point on the stream. He played awesome. I initially wrote down career day, but I think he's had better games like that. But there was some stuff that he was doing I've never seen from him before. I think I got to apologize to him again. I'm going to have to write up a formal apology letter. I don't know if I don't even know if he accepted my first couple. I don't think there's any reason for him to accept this one. I think that's just the cycle with Najee. Say that he's not that good. It was a waste of a first round pick. Not worth the money. And then he comes out and has a game like that. Now, I do think Jaylen Warren being out there helped him a lot. But Najee was awesome. Najee was awesome, man. Steeler fan 1023 says, isn't there a rumor that the Steelers are limiting the offense for Justin Fields and not allowing him to audible? I did hear that a couple weeks ago. That might be true. That might be true. I don't know if it's opened up over the last couple weeks, but I think you're right. JJ200 says, nah, GP dropped the third down pass. Not Justin's fault. I know. Yeah, GP. I don't know where these drops are coming from. It's weird. Russell Wilson's in the house. Wants to remind us about Fields' fumbles. He says Fields leads the league in fumbles, but only has one turnover. Yeah. He says he's picking up. Fields is good at picking up his own fumbles. That's true. That is true. Noeb123 says vet experience only goes so far. Russ definitely needs a better line to succeed. He isn't that young anymore to be able to scramble. We got 2 touchdowns off Fields and his legs. Like, that counts for something. That helps you a ton in the red zone. And Russ ain't going to give us that. Not at this stage. Now, would Russ be able to pass it better in the red zone? Maybe. Is Russ going to have enough time to pass it in the red zone, or just to pass it, period, with our offensive line right now? I don't know. I don't know about that, man. I really don't. Fields play good. He had a good game, man. He had a good game. Some stuff pops up and makes you pause, but we're winning games, and that buys you time, in my opinion. I think that buys him another week. If I'm the coach, I'd say let's just keep rolling with Fields. Why don't we do that? Why don't we we have 2 more games till the bye. Why can't we just roll with Fields to the bye? Give him 2 more games, a bigger sample size, and then you have the bye where you could step back, reassess things, look things over, and then make a decision then. Maybe that's the approach. Maybe that's what Tomlin should do. I don't think he is. My money is on him going with Russ. I'd stick with Fields, though. And, if you go with Russ, I get it. There's a case for it. I brought it up in a video earlier this week, who are you putting your money on between Fields or Russ playing against the Mahomes or playing against a Burrow in a do-or-die game in a playoff game? I think you could lean more on Russ at this point right now. But I also think with us winning games with Fields and him playing the way that he has, we could give him another opportunity, more opportunities to develop into something like that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. Like, why don't we see what I'm intrigued to see what Fields can do this week. Another opportunity on Sunday Night Football against an Aaron Rodgers and a Jets team. Let's see what he's made of. And if he doesn't show up, I think that could make your decision much more easier. Then you're like, okay, maybe we do go with Russ at this point. We're close to midway in the season. Fields Sunday Night Football against the Cowboys, left a little bit more to be desired. Did it again on a Sunday Night Football game against Rodgers. Didn't really show up when the lights were brightest. Maybe we switch to Russ. But don't you want to see what Fields can do again in that moment? Don't we want to build his sample size up a little bit more so we get a more definitive answer on him? Just because his potential is so high, his ceiling's so high. And I think with him, we're only scratching the surface. We're only 6 games in, but we're 4-2, and we've seen a lot of dynamic plays from him. And we haven't even opened up the offense. To the commenter's point here, the first comment that I read, wondering if Fields even has the ability to audible, or if we haven't opened up the offense as much for him as we would for Russ. Like, think there's a fair case for that right now. We only asked Fields to pass it 24 times. Now the 11 carries, I mean, you could add that into his workload. So maybe we are asking him to do a little bit more than what the narrative is. I say go with Fields one more week. Chelson says Fields' mobility is underrated with this fan base. I think so. Like, no one's talking. It's part of his game. I just brought up his stat line and how it's similar to Lamar Jackson's stat line whenever Lamar was in year 2 or year 3. Yeah, hell, maybe even year 4. I mean, where are we at with Lamar? What year is he in? I don't even know. But, like, I think Lamar's improved a ton as a passer. But the Ravens were winning games with Lamar doing pretty much just that. Maybe he would have more rushing yards, but this stat line wouldn't be out of question with Lamar. And how many? What's his winning percentage? Like 75%, 80%? Dude wins games. So why don't we keep rolling with Fields to see if he can continue to develop and just become even better? Like, continue to close in on what his ceiling could be. Because while we're doing that, we're still winning games. It's not like we're losing games. It's not like we're tanking the season or anything. But as Fields gets out there more and more, puts himself in more different scenarios, sees more defenses, sees more looks, he gets more comfortable out there, then I think he will be even a better passer, will be even a better quarterback. We'll find that skill of the quarterback position as time goes on. But again, for the time being, for where we're at right now, we could still win games with how he's playing. Roncito 11 says Russell Wilson has rushed for over 5,300 career yards. Please stop the hate. Russ at 35 ain't the same as Russ at 25 or when he was in his prime in Seattle. It just ain't the same. It's not the same. Justin Fields is probably between him, Lamar Jackson, and Jaden Daniels. Like, he's probably like a top 3 or 4 running quarterback in the league right now. Probably 2. He's probably a better runner than Jaden Daniels. I think Jaden Daniels is a little more shiftier. But Justin Fields uses his legs more. I'd say, at least up to this point, we utilize his legs more. Who's better than Fields and Lamar as a runner? Like, there's different. I get Russ has mobility, or he's had in the past, even last year. Yeah, you bring up 340 rush yards last year. I get that. It's just different, though. Fields, if you're getting 40, 50 yards from him a game, you're talking close to 800-900 yards for the season. It's just a different tier. No one thinks of Russ as a running quarterback. He can run. He uses his mobility. I think he used his mobility better in the past when he was in Seattle. But Fields, like a Fields, a Lamar Jackson, a Jaden. I wouldn't even say Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels comes off to me as more of a pocket passer. But these guys are more like running style quarterback. It's like a big feature in their game, big part of their game, something that the defense has got to account for. Like, no one's accounting for Russ on a read option or design QB runs. You get what I'm saying? Ron Cito 11 says, I just watched Flacco run for 30. Trust me, Wilson can still run. Did he run for 30 on one play? I don't remember seeing that. Are you saying was that the total of his rushing yards today? Let's see what else we got here in the chat. Chelson says, age changes mobility. I don't think Russ is in his prime running self. Yep. Let me see what else I got written down here I want to talk about. I brought up Najee briefly, but then I pivoted to the chat. So the things that I saw from Najee today that I don't think I've ever seen from him was that shimmy shake that he put on the dude one-on-one, hit the hole. And then, like, I don't know where he came up with this. Usually when he does juke moves, they're in like slow motion and he ends up almost like tackling himself. He's like tripping over himself and the defender can bring him down easy. And that's why we always say, Najee, just run through the dude. Come on, you're gonna pick up an extra 2 or 3 yards. Instead, you're trying to dance back there and you might even lose a yard. But this one, I don't know where he came up with this one at. I don't know, but he was in his bag. The dude, it was like an Allen Iverson crossover. The Raiders defender, broken ankles, and then Najee took it for another like 20, 25 yards. But then the other one down the sideline, put on the afterburners. It was like a Derrick Henry impersonation. I didn't think he had it in him. Maybe he lost enough weight this offseason where he is capable. You get him in the open field, maybe he can start taking him to the house. Picking up more than just 20 yards and getting tackled. Maybe we're talking about 40 yards, 50 yards. Because I think that was a 40-yard touchdown, right? But then, even some of the ones up the middle, I didn't think we were terribly predictable with Najee here either, which was nice. And again, I think Jaylen Warren being here helps. Even though Jaylen Warren didn't have his best of games. I think he was only like 6 carries for 7 yards. We know just having him out there makes things more difficult. It makes things difficult for the defense. Like they really gotta key in on him. And it helps with our flow, I think. It doesn't make us as predictable as an offense as a whole. So I think that helped Najee Harris. But you got to credit the dude himself because this was probably one of the best games I've seen from him. Maybe the best game. There's probably better stat games for him because he ended up with 14 carries, 106, and 1 touchdown. Maybe there isn't, though, actually. From an efficiency standpoint, 14 carries, 106, 7.6 a carry. Does he have a better yards per carry game than that? I don't know if he does. Had a couple catches out the backfield for 16 yards. I think he's had higher raw yard numbers. Probably definitely he's had a 2 touchdown game before, but I don't know if he's ever had a 7.6 yards per carry. So shout out to Najee, man. Big game for him. Again, I apologize. I apologize for any doubt or slander I've been saying about Najee, but I'm sure it'll be back at some point. I think can we just admit that's the Najee Harris cycle? It's just what you get with Najee Harris. You get some disappointing games where he's getting 2.5 yards per carry, 3 yards a carry. The offense feels predictable. He doesn't provide much splash, and you're just like, we need more Jalen. We need more Cordell Patterson. But then he has a game like this, and you're reminded of, this is why we like Najee. We like the power running game. But then when he's adding the actual effective juke move, and then he's able to put on the afterburners and reach over the goal line for a 40-yard rush for a 40-yard touchdown, then you're like, oh man, that's an all-around running back type of game right there. That's not just bruising physical style. That's an all-around running back. That's the type of stuff Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley do. So I don't know where that came from, but hopefully we get more of that. What else do I have here? Nice to see Roman Wilson out there. It would be nice if he would have got a catch or 2 or 3. It was nice to see him out there. He's actually capable of playing this year. We're not just gonna sit him for the whole season, even though he's completely healthy. He's been practicing over the last month. Nice to see him out there. Nice to, he's on a better track with us of getting some production, hopefully helping us out. But yeah, he's out. He's only out there for like a few snaps. Didn't do anything. That was unfortunate. It's good to see him out there, but unfortunate that he didn't get any work. Both Flash Steel says Fields missed so many open receivers. I think another comment said something along those lines. Who? I don't feel like our receivers are getting that open. Maybe I'll have to rewatch it. I don't think our receivers create a crazy amount of separation. Saw it in the Dallas game that they weren't getting open. Yeah, I don't know what plays you're talking about. Anything else I'm missing from this game? I think if you're going to grade Justin Fields and what he's done throughout the course of these 6 games, It depends on your perspective, how you're looking at Fields. If you're saying he's a backup and he just came in to do a job while Russ was in the waiting room, then I would say A plus because we're 4-2, and I think he's played very valiantly. I would go A plus, but that's like from a backup perspective. If we're talking about him being the starter and giving him the reins going forward, then I think you got to grade a little bit more on a curve and a little harsher. But I'd still give him like a B plus, and I think that type of grade is enough to give him at least another week to continue to prove that he could play at least a B plus level. So that's how I would assess Fields' first 6 games here. Bo Flash steals his first quarter overthrowing. Overthrowing. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Okay, maybe you used the proper term that I was trying to use that I couldn't think of. Yeah, he was like he would scramble out of the pocket, and it seemed like there would be a guy or two down the field. And then, yeah, it'd be inaccurate. He wouldn't like let it loose naturally. It would almost be like an overthrow. It would be like he'd be trying to like finesse it or like force it in to the spot where it should be instead of just like letting it fly. Yeah, there was a stretch of like 3 or 4 passes in a row in the first half where he just looked off. He didn't look like the Fields we've been seeing for most of this season thus far. I'll give you that, but I critiqued him on that earlier. Everything else, I mean, quarterbacks are gonna have bad passes. Quarterbacks are gonna go through tough stretches of games. It happens. I think when you look at his overall body of work, game in and game out, he's been doing a lot more positive for the Steelers than negatives. If anything, there's been times where he's put the offense on his back while we've had stupid penalties and we've had drops, fumbles, all that stuff. Like I think he's been the least of our problems on offense. Honestly, like if you want to say like him and Zach Frazier, those are probably the 2 dudes. Well, that's funny. I bring up those 2 names, but they're the ones that have had the snap exchange problem. Outside of the snap exchanges, those 3 or 4 plays where we've dealt with some terrible snaps, those 2 dudes have been, I think, the most consistent players on offense. Maybe you could throw Muth in the mix, although he had a drop, but drops happen. It's almost like I'm talking with Fields. He's going to have an inaccurate pass here or there. Your quarterback, you're passing it 20, 30 times a game. As a receiver, yeah, you might have a drop throughout the course of the season. It's just with Pickens, why I was highlighting them is they're happening way more frequently than what we're used to. Whereas Muth, I think he only has had that one drop, and that was like week 3. It's like already out of our memories at this point. It was that one Fields lasered across the middle of the field. It was like a dime. Nick Bittner, 21, brings up Muth. He says Muth was blocking good today. Yeah, he was. I'm liking his game. I'm liking how he's evolving, how he's developing. I think he's worth the contract that we gave him. Would still like to utilize him more in the passing game. It felt like we were heading in the right direction last week with that, but only 2 of 16 this week. Who else should I mention? Am I missing anyone else? I think it was just a good game, man. We won 32-13. As I said at the beginning, no drama. Pretty much everything went in our favor. It was a very timely win. Everything happened very timely for us. When the Raiders would do something good, a stupid penalty would cost them, and then we would take advantage of it. Like they almost scored that touchdown right before the end of the third quarter, but it got called back for that. Like, what was it? The lineman went a little bit too far. He went like 2 or 3 yards too far from where he should have been, and they had to call that back. Even though Aiden O'Connell didn't get the snap off anyway, that should have been a no play. So maybe that was a ball don't lie moment to begin with. But then we were able to get the forced fumble right after that. Just as Fields threw the pick across the middle of the field, we get the roughing the passer call. Keep the series going. We end up scoring a touchdown. I think we get a 3 and out, or we didn't convert on a 3rd and long or something. Roughing the passer penalty. Najee Harris ends up scoring that 40-plus yard touchdown. So we took advantage of every opportunity given to us, even though at times offense wasn't the prettiest. I think defense was solid. Defense was, I think, very, very good today. We had 183 on the ground, man. 35 carries, 183. Najee with the 106. Fields with 59. Jonathan Ward, 13 at the end of the game. 183 on the ground. I probably should have talked about that more throughout the course of this show. That was in a way, like a quiet 183. I didn't realize we had 183. Yeah, it's almost 200. That's a good ass game for the run. That's good. But all right, man. I think that's it. I think I mentioned everything I had to mention. JJ200 says Bishop been getting torched in the slot lately. I know he's a rookie, but I see potential. I thought he actually had a bounce back game today. I thought he did all right. I thought Bishop did pretty good. Dallas was his worst game for sure, but today felt like a step in the right direction. Our defense as a whole played good. I can't really critique the defense that much because anything that happened in terms of the Raiders' favor when they were on offense was more towards late in the game, garbage time stuff, and just that first series. That's about it. Defense was pretty consistent. Brock Bowers got some numbers, but Brock Bowers is probably already one of the best tight ends in the league right now. All right, guys. Well, that's it. We'll see what happens with Devontae Adams, though. Schefter reported that Khan and the Steelers met with the Raiders about it on Saturday. So who knows? Maybe Monday happens and Devontae Adams is a Pittsburgh Steeler. Will be pretty dope. But stay chilling, everyone. We're sitting at 4-2. Good game, good win. No drama. I'll see you on Wednesday. Peace.